Caroline Polachek, Desire I Want to Turn Into You. Album review, let's chat about it. Hey friends, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning here tonight to chat about this latest album from Miss Caroline Polachek, New York-based singer-songwriter. She's been at it for a couple of years now, but you may know her also as one half of Chairlift. They were an indie pop and sort of synth pop act a while back. She was one half of them, and honestly, I was never that crazy about Chairlift's music. They just, to me, were not one of the freshest faces in indie pop and synth pop at the time. I also remember seeing them at a festival, and I just was really underwhelmed with their performance. Just wasn't for me. And when Caroline initially broke out on her own, I was a little hesitant to check out what she was putting out as solo stuff. Her album Pang that came out a few years ago took me a while to listen to it. But I'm just so happy with how well done that album came out at the end of the day. Fans loved it, critics loved it, I loved it. It was a little avant-garde and experimental at times, but it was also really sweet and bubbly and really catchy. It was also just so confident, and in the last few years, Caroline has really kind of found her own little niche in the art pop and, just experimental pop and progressive pop world. And I was just hoping that what she could do with her second album was just bigger and bolder than the stuff that we got on Pang, which I did love, but I wanted to see her grow from it. And with this new album, well, yeah, she did just that. Welcome to My Island kicks this album off, and it is eye-opening. It very quickly introduces you to the sound of this album and Caroline Polachek's music as a whole. It's triumphant. It just makes you feel like you're showing up to this gigantic, larger-than-life art pop experience. It's bubbly. It's got some swagger to it. This chorus is awesome, and honestly, this just cements that Caroline Polachek as a solo artist. She has really designated her signature sound, and she sounds great. Her vocals alone on this track make this worth a listen. Buckle up, because this album is awesome. On the other hand, Pretty Impossible is a little bit more steamier, a little bit more upbeat. It's breezy, it's bubbly, it's quirky, but it also has a ton of personality. While maybe as not as big of a gut punch or a banger as I expected, my God, Caroline just sounds like such a presence, and she does throughout this whole album. It's wonderfully performed and really, really well produced. It's a great track. Bunny is a Rider, on the other hand, this track has been out for a hot minute. This track has been out quite some time. But it's still, even though it was reduced so... Watch that. But still, even though it was released a long time ago at this point, it has a very strong presence on this album. It really sounds like it belongs here. It's once again super bubbly. I love how textured it is. I just can't help but get caught up in these warm rhythms. It honestly feels like a mission statement for this entire album, and I love the Alice in Wonderland call-outs. And then we get to Sunset, which is Caroline's attempt at a flamenco track, and it is so good. It's adorable, it's incredibly sentimental, it's light on the ears, it's just so airy and breezy, and I love it. It just makes me feel so warm and fuzzy. Like some of her vocals, my God, this track is just so endearing. Put this on your Valentine's Day playlist next year. And I Believe is fantastic too. I love the sonic production here. We also get this really great upbeat groove, and Caroline's vocals absolutely soar on this track. It's got a synth-heavy beat and an icy groove. As far as a future pop sounding track, look no further. And it's something that I hope that she touches down on more in the future, obviously. But honestly, for now, this is just classy. I really do feel like Caroline has become the next big artsy pop star that we all deserve. And thankfully, I don't really have that much bad to report here. But the only bad thing is, when this album gets rough for 2 tracks, it gets really rough. Like Crude Drawing of an Angel, what happened here? This is far beyond the worst track here. This low-key, plodding along, sleazy jam is just not up Caroline's alley. I was in such a great groove leading up to this track. This track just ripped me right out of it. This track is just ugly. It's shockingly boring, and I can't really think of much redeeming about it. And Butterfly Net, it's average. It's just average. It's not necessarily the worst thing I've heard. I actually do like the sort of stripped down acoustic riff that we get here. It's very 90s. And I don't know, I like some of the other elements as well. Like those lonely keyboards. Those are great. But overall, I'm worried that this track just, to me, sounds really directionless. It's not terrible, but there's just so much better stuff here. But It's only late February, and this is already just like a shoe-in for one of the best pop albums you're going to hear all year. Then we have Fly to You. I don't know who had Grimes and Dido on their bingo cards for today's collaboration, but I'm glad they're here. This is such a fantastic collaboration on this track. I love the upbeat sort of electronic instrumental that we get here. Grimes' vocals sort of blend into them, and it sounds really great. And Dido, she seems to be, like, I don't know, on my list of people that just don't belong on a track like this. She's kind of towards the bottom, but she absolutely owns this feature and sounds great. And I do still think Blood and Butter is the best track here. This, to me, is one of the most progressive and forward-facing tracks here. Caroline's performance here is absolutely entrancing, and then you add in this sort of lapping, very hypnotizing instrumental, and you've got something that's pretty wowing. But it's not too far out that your average pop fan could listen to this and just not enjoy it either. But if you're a fan of when Caroline really pushes herself and tries a little something progressive, this track is an absolute must listen, and the bagpipes towards the end, every time they pop in, I get the chills. Hopedrunk, Everasking, on the other hand, is a sort of stripped down ballad, which did worry me from a distance. But truth be told, I love Caroline's performance here. It is so lonely and tender. That, alongside this very spacious, almost ambient backdrop, it's pretty powerful. It's a real heartbroken journey of a tune. Smoke is an awesome deep cut as well. The backing chanting and the bulky beat are so refreshing and different sounding. This is once again the sort of progressive sound that I want to hear her go even more into. It's epic, it's got some swagger to it, it's an absolute knockout. Some of these later tracks, man, they have some real tricks up their sleeves. And speaking of a progressive sound, what even is Billions? I feel like I haven't come down from it yet. And I mean that in the best way. If she did a track like this in a full album sound, I could listen to the whole damn thing and love every second of it. It's deconstructed, it's hard to pinpoint, it's weird, but it's also, super epic, and Caroline's performance really ties everything together. It's so wonderfully weird that it just amps me up and reminds me that Caroline has a lot going for her future. It's a wild finale, and this, to me, seems like Caroline's calling card. This could be her signature sound and song. It is fantastic. Yeah, this album is great. I don't have too much bad to report. I mean, yeah, there's 2 tracks here that just get straight up ugly, but overall, we're in the presence of one of the artsiest and most progressive thinking pop stars out there right now. This album is great. She has kind of built up her sound like all around. There's not a single element to this album that she didn't do on her last album, but it's a whole lot better this time around, and that makes me happy as it is. I mean, it's only late February, but this is easily going to be the most interesting pop album that you're going to hear this year. I'm feeling a very strong 8 on this album, but let me know what you all think down below. If you like the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, friends.